Good morning, Standard 2. I hope you all enjoyed your weekend, and I hope that we're ready to learn today. We're going to start off with our math. Let's say the match here. When I count to three, say it with me, please. 1, 2, 3. Math. I like that. Great. We're going to learn a new topic today, and it's called comparing numbers. Comparing numbers. The word compare means that we look at two or more things to see what they have that are the same and to see what they have that are different. In math, when we say comparing numbers, we're comparing the value of the number to see which number has more value or which number is smaller or if the numbers are equal. When we're using comparing numbers, we have terms that we use specifically. We are going to be using the terms greater than, smaller than, or equal to. We also can use the word less than for smaller than, but in our math book, we're going to be using the word smaller than. Today, to help us learn the symbols that show the value of the number, I have a little friend here with me, and I like to call him Mr. Alligator. Mr. Alligator looks like the symbol that we use to compare numbers. The symbol looks like this. The symbol has a small end and an open end. And it can go both ways. The small end always directs itself to the smaller number, and the larger end always directs itself to the larger number. That's the reason why I like to use Mr. Alligator. I look at him as opening his mouth to the bigger number, and the smaller end shows the value of the smaller number. So here on my board, I have two numbers. I have the number 436 and the number 20. The number 436 is greater than the number 20. So Mr. Alligator is opening his mouth to the bigger number, and the end is going to the smaller number. Now, if I did not have Mr. Alligator, I would use the symbol. I always draw my symbol to reflect the open. The open side reflects the bigger number, and the smaller side shows me the smaller number. Now we're going to be looking at how do we compare numbers. I'm going to be writing two numbers on my board, and we're going to learn how we compare these numbers. I have the number 694 and the number 692. To compare these numbers, we first look at the number in the highest value place. In this case, the numbers that are in the highest value place are 6 because these numbers are in the hundreds house. If we look at both numbers in the hundreds house, they're equal, they're both 6. So now I must move on to the tens house to compare them. Now if I look at both numbers in the tens house, they're 9s, so they're equal. None is bigger than the other. So I must move on to the last number in the ones house. In the ones house, I have 4 and I have 2. 4 is greater than 2. So 694, this number is greater than 692. To write my symbol, I will make sure the symbol, the open part, is facing the bigger number. Will I put my symbol this way or this way? Let's get Mr. Alligator to help us. I'm going to put it this way. If that's what you got as your answer, if that's what you were thinking, great job. That means you Got it correct. Mr. Alligator's mouth always opens up to the bigger number, and the N always goes to the smaller number. Now, when we're reading this out, we always read from left to right. The same way we read when we're reading a book is the same way we're going to read when we're reading out our numbers. We're going to say that 694 is greater than 692. Now, what if I had these numbers the opposite way and Mr. Alligator had to change his direction? Let me go ahead and switch those value of those numbers so that we can read it correctly. Okay, here, here I have the numbers written in the opposite of how they were just written down. I have 692 and 694. Now, the way we compared a few minutes ago told us that 694 is greater than 692, but I must use my symbol to face the right direction. So the open part will always be towards the greatest number. So how will I go ahead and put Mr. Alligator to face? If you guessed that Mr. Alligator would be facing this way, then great job. You guessed it correctly. So we can see that the open mouth is facing the bigger number and the closed part is facing the smaller number. When we're reading this out, we always read from left to right, left to right. So since the smallest part comes first when we're reading from left to right, we're going to read this by saying 692 is less than 694. Now I'm going to write another number and I would like you to try it in your head. And we're going to do this together and let's see if we understand how our symbols should face. So I'm going to use a bigger number this time in the thousands house because we have been learning about place value for the numbers in the thousands house. So here I have two numbers on my board. The first number is 1,490 and the second number is 1,495. Now, I need to compare these numbers starting off at the greatest house. The largest house is the thousands place, so I will compare the 1 to the 1. They're both equal. So now I move on to the hundreds place. The 4 and the 4 is equal. And then I move on to the tens place. The 9 and the 9 are the same number. They're equal. So I have to determine the value using the last place, which is the ones house. I have a 0 here and I have a 5 here. The 5 is greater than the 0, so 1,495 is bigger than 1,490. What direction do you think the alligator mouth is going to face? Do you think it will be this way or this way? If you guessed that Mr. Alligator's mouth is going to be pointing or open to 1,495, then great job. You got it correct. When we're reading this number out, we always start from the left moving to the right. So when I read this number out, I will say 1,490 is less than 1,495. 1,490, using this less than, is less than 1,495. 595. Now it's time for you to try it on your own. Take out your Math 3A practice book, and we're going to be doing page 12. You're going to be doing numbers 1, 2, and 3. Do not do number 4. We are not going to do number 4 today. We're going to learn about number 4 on another day. So we're only going to be practicing comparing numbers. Pause this video now so that you can complete numbers 1, 2, and 3 on page 12. When you're finished, you can play the video so we can check our answers together. If you're playing this video now, it means that you've just finished. Once you're finished, then we're going to be checking to see how you did. Please do not check the answer unless you have completed your work. Okay, so number 1 asks, which is greater, 4,037 or 4,073? If your answer was 4,073, then you are correct. 4,073 is greater than 4,037. B says, which is smaller, 5,001 or 5,010? If you have your answer as 5,001, then you are correct. 5,001 is smaller than 5,010. We now have 4 sets of numbers that we will compare. Number 2A asks, which is the greatest number from the numbers above? If your answer is 4,082, then you are correct. Go ahead and give yourself a check mark. If you did not get it, please fix it. We're now moving on to B. Which is the smallest number? Out of all those numbers there, the smallest number is 3,671. So it should be 3671. That is the smallest number from all the numbers above. If you got it correct, good job. Put a correct mark. If you did not, fix it. Put the correct number there. If you would like to review, you can always rewind the video and you can see what we use to compare the numbers. You can look at the symbols. If you would like to hear the answer over, you can also rewind the video, or you can pause it now so that you can check your answers. On my board, I've written out the answers for question number 3. So I'm going to be showing you my board so that you can see if you got the symbols correctly. For A, the number 7,685 is smaller than the number 7,865. If we're comparing it, the 7 and the 7 is the same. Then we move on to the 6. This 6 is smaller than this 8, so this is greater than this. So the mouth should be open to the greater number. So your symbol's mouth should be open to this. If you got it correct, put a correct mark. If you did not, fix your symbol correctly. Now we're moving on to B. We have the number 5,025 and 5,031. What number is greater? Again, our mouth, the symbol, should be open to the greater number. This number is greater than this. Let's compare it. We first start off at the thousands house. 5 and 5 are the same. 0 and 0 the same. The 2, and then there's a 3 in the tens house. 3 is greater than 2, so this number is bigger than this number. 5,025, 5,031. This number is bigger, so we open it up to the bigger number. We now have 5,203, 5,199. Let's compare the numbers by the largest number in the house. We first start out with the 5. These are both the same. They have the same value, so we now need to compare the hundreds place. The 2 is greater than 1, so this number is bigger than this number. And as we can see, the symbol, the greater side, the open side, will be facing the bigger number. So your symbol should be facing this way. If you got all of them correct, great job. You just learned how to compare numbers. If we made a few little arrows when we were doing this, that is fine. We're just learning it and we're going to be having a lot of practice with that.